I'll just start off by welcoming everyone to another week. Oh, cool. We'll just jump straight into the charts. The first one we'll probably start with is SPX, I think. So it's still coming. Oh, there was a few people that I'm aware of that are quite bullish at the moment, and they were sort of looking at the SPY in August, thinking that this year was going to be the high low because it formed above this low from back in June. But typically August and September in a pre-election year are fairly red. And so I was sort of thinking, I think it's still going to come back down. And I've been marking this 4,200 level for quite some time. It was the old resistance, came down, got rejected, came down, came back up, rejected, but it was only a soft rejection before we started pushing through. So it'd be good to come back down and test the top side of that to make sure that it's flipped. I think it's going to happen this week, and I'm expecting it to get a nice bounce off it. If we start coming down lower, it's not going to be too bullish if we start coming down lower, but there is a lot of structure here. And worst case scenario, that's the low from last year. That's the March high low when the banking collapse. I don't think these levels are not going to get taken out in the current market state. So it does have wiggle room to come down, but I think it would be better for it to sort of get a nice reaction in this area here. And I think Q4 is looking green to me. I think it's going to be positive. It's going to start picking up. It's been overdue for a nice reset. Like, it's been pretty much up since March, which is nearly a 4-month rally, with very little pullback. So it's always expected to get some sort of pullback. But if we just focus on this little area here from October through to March, and we'll head over to the Hang Seng, and it's starting. It's not exactly the same, but it is. I'll just get rid of this fib. It is starting to give similar vibes to what was happening in the SPX. We've got the low in November, a very quick pump. Like, that was extremely quick pump, and it was a 50% pump at that in the space of 2 months. For an index, that's pretty insane. When you pump like that, it's got to come back down, and it's going to come down sharply. I was sort of the opinion that around 17.6 was going to be the level it was going to bounce at, but it closed yesterday below. I'm a buyer at these levels. I think I posted yesterday in the Discord that I increased my exposure to the Hang Seng by about 15%. I'm going to be doing the same today with the SPX as well. These are buying opportunities for me. It's not Hang Seng. It went up really quick, and it's had a bit of a slow bleed off. So I think it will have just as quick run up. Once it starts to form a bit of support, probably somewhere between around 16.8 to where it is now. We do have a little bit of structure over here that it's at around the 17.5 mark. So yeah, even 16.7 we could maybe see it come down to. We do have this bit of structure here on both sides, but there is a lot of upside for the Hang Seng. If we zoom out to a month, its highs are up at around 33,500 back in 2018. So that's 5 years ago. But that's not to say that we can't start going back up there. I mean, it got from 22,000 to 32,000 in around 7 months. So that's another 50% gain, more or less. Took a little bit longer than what this one did, but it also had a lot more market cap to climb to get there. We'll go over to the UK 100. I know that there's a few people from the UK in here. This is a bit of a newish chart. I think it's just basically from the index that I'm using, but nonetheless, we can still have a look. On a monthly view, it's actually looking quite very good, really. Had the COVID dump, and then it's just been high, low, high, low, new all-time high. Looks like it's formed a high low at 7,200. It's not confirmed, but it is looking pretty good, given the sell-off that we're seeing in China and the movements that we're seeing at the moment in the US. The UK market is holding up pretty good. We're getting these nice big wicks and then a slow bleed, and that's just resetting indicators. And then we might see another green candle, slow bleed off, another green candle, slow bleed off. I think it's a possibility that we see a second all-time high for the UK stocks this year. We did post it back in Feb, and it's not that far away. 5% over the course of 3 months is very achievable. And it's this nice little double bottom that it formed here, which looks pretty good. We don't really want to see the pullback coming back down below around 74.50. I mean, it can, but it'd be nice to maybe see it maybe come and tap it, or we're actually at resistance here at the moment, and break these highs, because it's been ranging 7,700-ish has been resistance for a little while. But it's looking good in my opinion anyway. I think I know there's no one from Australia, but I'm Australian, so we can have a look at the Aussie market. The Aussie market is dictated to quite heavily by predominantly by Asia, and our market's still quite heavily influenced by the US as well. UK not so much, doesn't really affect us. But yeah, Asia has a massive impact, and the US does have an impact as well. But we've pretty much just been sideways chop for 2 years. We haven't printed an all-time high this year. We did last year. I'm a bit cautious that we will this year. I mean, it's nearly 10%, about 9% off the high, off making an all-time high in the Aussie market. We've had massive growth here in Australia. Like that, our COVID low got down to 4,400, and it climbed back up really quickly. It was a super recovery over here in Australia. We had a lot of money printing going on. It was quite crazy. When you look at, we're only a country of about 26 million people, and the handouts that were going on it was crazy. The only other place I'm aware of something of a similar extent was in New Zealand, where the government was actually paying wages for people to stay at home in lockdown, as opposed to going to work. And it was actually quite extreme. Like, if you're a casual, all you had to do was be a casual, completing on average more than 10 hours per week. And to do that, if you did that, you would essentially get a full-time wage from the government to stay home in lockdown. So yeah, it was quite wasteful over here, and we've got a big debt from it. But that's how they inject money into the economy. So we'll look at the Dixie real quick. I've spoken about this getting to the 107 level. It's been going straight up for since pretty much the middle of July. Um, this is on the weekly time frame. It's just all green, and this is why we've been seeing a bit of a sell off in the stocks and in crypto. Um, whilst the Dixie doesn't directly affect crypto and stocks, it's crypto and stocks are a side effect. Basically, Dixie goes up, the euro goes down because the euro is the largest contributor to the Dixie, the US dollar index. Um, but when the US dollars index is going up, risk assets also uh, sell off as well, and that just puts a bit more strength into the US dollar. So the reason why 107, it's 50% level on a high time frame. It if we were in a different part of the market cycle, I would sort of expect this to keep going up, and this to just be a healthy retrace. But it's going to get rejected somewhere here. Like it could go to maybe 111. I am extremely skeptical that the Dixie is going to make a new all-time high. I think it's going to be a bearish retest. It's just a matter of where does it find the rejection at? It could be 107, could be at the golden pocket, it could be at the 786, could be anywhere in between. But the trend is up on the mid-term time frame. So we should expect a continued sell-off. But we in the indexes and crypto. However, we are 1, 2, 3. We're about 12 or 13 weeks green. So this chart's getting overcooked now. It's going to have like maybe a little bit of a big. It might have a big green candle, and then we're going to see the downtrend probably continue. I think, and that'll result in the stocks picking back up, crypto picking back up. But always a great chart to look at, the Dixie. It can give you a bit of insight as to what's happening or what could happen with stocks, or even if you need to on ramp your fiat into USDT, you can use this to sort of assist when you can get the best exchange ratio. If you're going from euros to USDT or Aussie dollar, for instance, I'll head over to Bitcoin. Now, I've got a lot of fibs running around here. I'll just delete some of them. So I've left my my little September projection up. Been tracking quite nicely with it. I did this back at the start of September. And we hit the low, took the high. Now we're seeing a bit of sideways chop. I can't see Bitcoin continuing up without coming down and taking these lows. We might bounce at 24, might bounce at 23.5. I'm thinking 23.5. It doesn't have to happen on Tuesday the 26th, which for me was yesterday. I think that's today for you guys. But I think in the next week, maybe first week of October, we're going to see it come down to these levels before we continue our run up. It is starting to get to the nitty gritty. I think that the longer that we go sideways and hold above these levels, the better, because then as we continue sideways, this channel, which I've had this channel going since last year, June last year. This channel keeps moving up, and that's a big support for the channel. Typically, when we're running channels, we see both sides getting tapped. So high side, low side, high side. Now we're coming down to the low side. But that's not to say that this 23.5K level is going to be broken. We could come down, bounce sideways all the way through to November, and then come down and touch the bottom of the channel at 23.8 and put in a higher low, or even past then. We could do it in December, and that bottom of the channel could be around 24.5K come the middle of December. But it would be good to see at some point in the next sort of 3-4 months us tap the bottom of the channel. It's not something that has to happen. It's just nice to have. But it has been quite bearish the past couple of months. Bitcoin, big sell off. This is a Bybit chart, so we got down to 24.2 on the Bybit chart. Whereas I think the index chart got to around 25K, something like that. Yeah, we had the big sell off, and then a little pump on the ETF. I think that was the ETF pump, maybe. Then the sell off, the complete reversal. A couple of days later, came down to start testing the lower areas. That's actually the June low that it's tested here. Because we have to remember, I'll go to the index chart. It'll probably show it better. Yeah. So on the index chart, we came down to 25.2 on the big sell off. That's the June low. At 24.8, came down to test the June low, and we nearly got there within $100, and it got rejected, and that's why we've seen this pump up through the first half of September, and now the second half has more or less been red, and I expect that to continue for the next couple of weeks. Not really going to touch on alts. I don't think for me there hasn't really been a lot of change. There has been a few that have been pumping, like for instance Maker, that's been pumping. It's coming up to 1500, which wouldn't be a bad short opportunity around 1500. This is a bad chart because it's only got more or less about 12 months worth, but we've got a little bit of resistance here or support that may have been flipped to resistance. 50% level, so could be a good short opportunity. There was one thing I did want to show, and that was I was just on our news website earlier here in Australia, and this is talking about the US. So countries being destroyed, US braces shut down as right-wing Republicans demand spending cuts. And more or less they're saying that the government's going to shut down in 4 or 5 days if they don't come to an agreement. And this is just some of the fear that comes into the market when we start getting to the lows. They're running out of selling steam, and so they need to start really ramming it down our throats. The world's going to end, the economy's going to end, and this is why you need to sell. But I'm sure that it'll be resolved. It'll be a nothing burger, just a bit of fear mongering, and that's just how the media and governments like to play the games. So I'm not anti-government, but I've got to call it and for what it is when I see it. It's very similar to the US debt ceiling crisis. The governments are jumping up and down about it. News outlets are jumping up and down about it. Some of the articles I saw, or the headlines of articles that I saw over here, were like the economy is going to end in the US. It's their debt's crazy, but it was really a nothing burger. It's just been kick the can down the road. I'm sure it'll catch up to them one day, but yeah, the time is not now. Was there anything that anyone wanted me to sort of go over specifically or have a look at? or any questions? Thanks, Muji. JP speaking on Thursday, so that might shake the markets. Yeah, that's correct. That's right. It could also start to flip the markets, or be the reason for the markets, be the excuse for the markets starting to flip from what they've been doing at the moment. October is typically quite a green month based on history, so we may see that trend starting to flip. I'd like to see the end of month pick up rather than be continuing of a sell off. If it continues to sell off, then we're likely to see selling off moving into October. Whereas if we start to see a bit of strength come into the market towards the end of the week, then the start of October is likely to continue that strength. But yeah, end of month's always quite volatile. We'll have a quick look, Nomad. Just for you, we'll have a quick look at sweat. Again, lots of lines here. Sorry about that, but I'll keep it to a daily time frame. It is a bit hard to analyze what's happening with sweat. Because I feel like there is a lot of I love sweat. I enjoy it. I'm an investor in sweat, but I can't detract that this is more or less a sustained movement based on the US launch. And so that makes it quite hard to sort of work out where's it going. I mean, these 50% levels have been working quite well, but it has been dropping below them, and sort of giving a sense of, well, when we came down here, it was coming down hard, closed below. It would have been a good assumption to say, well, this is going to be a sustained run lower. But then we had that massive buy, and the trend got flipped. We've had a bit of a retrace. Now it is quite hard to sort of work out where's it going, what's the limit, and where's the support going to come in. My eyes are, I'm going to be very focused on it after the US launch, because then whilst there's still going to be utility released and such, which is fantastic, you don't have that big news event of, massive launch, 350 exposure to 350 million people. Well, that's roughly the population of the US. And it will be good to see if sweat can maintain its current movement, or whether it does start to pull back and bleed back over time. Well, it is looking great. There's no doubt about that. You can't knock it on that front. Even looking at sweat BTC, it's been on a nice run, broken some resistance levels, and when we're up here, we had the big pump. I drew this rectangle box and said, I think we're going to come back down and test this region, 50% level as well, and also wanted to see if this had been flipped to support. And that's sort of, it's had a nice bounce. We want to see now this top here broken, and that will confirm that to be a higher low on the sweat Bitcoin chart, which is, like, it's one thing to get high lows on the USDT chart, but to be outperforming Bitcoin, that's a pretty big feat. However, if we do start to get to, say, here, or even get to the high and then start rejecting, that's going to be quite bearish. And we'll just have to see how that plays out. But yeah, definitely interested to watching this space and seeing how we go. Love the project, love the utility that it brings, and what they're trying to do there. I just got some comments from Muji here. I think there are multiple factors: US launch, restricted supply, monthly burns, buybacks, added utilities. Yeah, I agree to a certain degree with you, Muji. There's lots of projects that have uh, like restricted supply, monthly burns, and buybacks. We're not in the right space for alts to be going for a sustained run. There's always going to be some that do go buck the trend, and sweat could definitely be one of those. I hope it is. Um, but it's yeah, I think having these utilities is fantastic, and it's great to have it in place now. And when it comes to when liquidity does start entering the space, those that have worked hard and have these great foundations, and they're not just a pump and dump token. They're really going to flourish when liquidity comes to the space for alts. But at the moment, it's not. We're not at that point. Um, we've sort of seen it with like I know these are meme coins, but for instance, Pepe, it had a massive pump, had a multi-billion-dollar market cap, and it's come back down. XRP got the best news that it could possibly get um, with the lawsuit, and it's retraced back the entire pump. And that's just a bit of Tesla to show that the space that the altcoins is not ready for them to have these great big runs just yet. But look, there is some that are bucking the trend, and like Injector Protocol, that's one that's been sustaining its run over a long period of time. And let's hope Sweat is another. Look, Muji's also written here. Let's hope we get over 0.01 before launch. I think I did call that back when we were launching at the start of September. So we will see. It's really not far away in the altcoin space. It's 25%, 20%, 25% off. So definitely possible. So some alts can run 50, 60, 70% just in a couple of hours or minutes even when they're looking for liquidity. So we'll see what happens. Did anyone have any questions or wanted me to go over anything specifically? I knew it. I should have just done it anyway. Yeah, Xenon, no worries. We can have a quick look at ADA. Although I feel like there's not going to be a lot to talk about ADA, but we can have a look for you, mate. Uh, Bearish as bearish can get, for me at least anyway. The prior range lows, and it's been rejected. And that's just I think it's just going to sort of range here for a little bit until it gets some direction from Ethereum or Bitcoin. But it's going to be coming down to around 20 cents or lower, I think, quite easily for ADA. Unfortunately, there's just no liquidity in the space for alts to start flipping. Um, it's had this big pump back here and just been bleeding ever since with little signs of life. A little liquidity grab here up to 28 cents, but back in May, 28 cents, we weren't even thinking of 28 cents back in May. So I'm bearish on ADA. Unfortunately, at the moment, the time will come when I do flip bullish on alts. But I just as an entire asset class, I can't be bullish on them at the moment. So I hope that helps. Xenon's just written here. Seems to be following a trend line at the bottom. Yeah, that's how the whales how they want to play the game, particularly with alts. Like, really depends on the asset you're looking at, but with alts like this, it'll get broken. Trend lines are gonna get broken. I've only roughly drawn that, but I see what you're saying, how it's had a bounce. But if you really would have, like, see how it came down and tapped it here. I guess that's formed the trend line, but it's come down and tapped it, and then we got a bit of a run. We're not really seeing that bit of a run here. The continuation. So that'll probably break it by the end of the week. Not guaranteeing anything. That's just speculation. But I would say by the end of the weekend, um, it will have broken this trend line. But we'll see what happens. It's just when it's coming down like that, and then you got this trend line, and the bounce has been getting weaker. Came down, and then it took quite some time to get back to it. But these gaps here are getting smaller, and these bounces up are getting smaller, and so it's a matter of time before it just doesn't have a bounce, and it'll more or less shit the bed and tip out. And I don't think it's going to do it on its own back. It's going to need Bitcoin or Ethereum to sort of help it break through these trend lines. No worries on them. Well, I think that probably draws things to a bit of a close for today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope that you guys get something valuable out of these chart sharing and video shares that we do. And we'll get this up onto YouTube as soon as possible within the next couple of days. But for now, take care of yourself and have fun, guys. Thank you.